I'll give you another example. Somebody shared this with us who was working in a prison. And she's an educator in a prison. I don't know if we need a bit of air. And I think all the windows. You okay? Carry on some more? You're not okay. And she'd been working with a group of young offenders. Well, that's better, isn't it? And often in prisons in the UK, the teacher will be there alone with the inmates, with the prisoners. And one of the boys had wanted to do some rap, and she was saying, okay, we won't do the rapping now, music. We have to do something else, we'll do it later. And one of the boys got angry. And he came, and she's quite small, and she was sitting on the chair, and he came and stood next to her. He's a big, towering lad, and he held his fist like this, threatening her. I want to do this, miss. And she said she just kept very calm, and she looked at him, and you know how you have your thoughts just go through your mind in a split second, and she thought, is his fist moving? No, his fist is not moving, so I'm not in danger. So she looked at him, she said, Johnny, or whatever his name was, what are you doing? What do you expect me to feel? Do you expect me to feel scared? And he said, he's holding his fist, oh, you don't need to be scared of me, miss. And he went and sat down. A very interesting example, because if she'd got emotionally involved and begun to have fear, it probably would have precipitated some violent behavior. But she stayed free of that emotional involvement. She stayed loving. She stayed in her original self. So the situation was diffused. These are very practical ways in which we can change the dynamic of our relationships, and we can begin to get positive outcomes even when things seem even threatening or negative. And I could tell you many other stories, and I'm sure you have your own stories in that regard. So the power of pausing, the power of soul consciousness, the power of subtly creating pure thoughts is a very real one. Often in our teachings we would read little slogans or blessings, and I remember one morning we had something very beautiful, and it said, and Joachim, you mentioned about changing the world, I'm an idealist too. I want to change the world. and I think we all have many friends here too. But it said something, it said that the world will change when everybody sits in meditation with the same vibration. And that really touched me. Not the same thoughts, but something more subtle, the same vibration, the same purity, the same elevated stage of consciousness. And so this is what our world needs. And so definitely it's meditation and high performance for the self, for others, for the world. Might not be in the way the financial world defines it, or the way the GMPs define it, but in terms of human life, yes, definitely. Okay, I thought I'd just leave, I know we will go into our meditation shortly, but I thought I'd just leave a little time for any comments or questions, because we've not really had an interaction like that. Is there anything anyone wants to clarify or add to or whatever? All right, I'm going to need a translator, yeah. Are we all of the same vibration? Yes, please.
Just wondering, how did you get into it in the first place?
Into meditation.
Yes, how old were you and what got
Okay, I'll give. Do you want the long version or the short version? Whatever I like, in between. No, I've been with the BKs for nearly 32 years, as was mentioned. And you think, 32 years? How did that happen? When I was 21, when I came to BKs, so you can calculate my age now. Nothing to hide. But I'd actually been meditating for a few years. I don't know, do you need to say the question in Spanish? Or everybody?
Yeah,
oh, of course. Beg your pardon. Okay. So the question, I think you all heard the question. If I heard it, you all heard it. But I'd been meditating a couple of years before, actually about 3 years before that, I'd been meditating. And you know, a search had been going on really from quite young somehow. And I think you were mentioning about childhood, and in childhood we have quite natural experiences at times. And I know that from time to time I'd had experiences of soul consciousness. And I know in particular when I was 6 or 7, and at that age you're really beginning to think for yourself and form your identity, I used to say to my mother, and she found it very morbid, but I don't want to die. And what used to be in my mind was that I could not imagine not being conscious. You know? And then, of course, later on when I began, and I was brought up in a religious home, so all those things were there, but it was very clear in my mind that I am never going to stop being a conscious being. I couldn't quite formulate it as a child, but it was, you know, there. And when, of course, I learnt more and more, especially through the BKs, but even before then, about the eternity of the soul, then I knew this was what I was experiencing. And that made a lot of sense to me. And so, yes, I was searching. I got married quite young, and so myself and David, we used to go to meditation together, study different things, study the Kabbalah, various things. And then it was when we were on our way to the Findhorn community. Some of you may know the Findhorn community in Scotland. And we used to go there in the 70s, so when it was quite different to now. And we were on our way there one year, and we stopped off in Edinburgh, and you know, Destiny, literally a Indian lady dressed in white, walked past us, gave us a leaflet, didn't say a word, and walked off.